Alright, so hip-hop has been changing a lot since I want to say 2015, right? And with all of this change, we've had a slew of trends and artists come and go like the shit I took after Thanksgiving. But for the past couple of years until now, it seems that a new challenger has come to take the throne at hip-hop, and it just happens to be the revival of drill music, this time with New York retaking the throne under a new light. But after a couple of years of oversaturation, silly dances, and overall tomfoolery, it looks like drill music might just be hitting its end game very soon. And that's why I'm here to tell y'all why its downfall is inevitable. Alright, so before we get into the nitty gritty of things, let's take a nice family trip back to 2012. We all know what we were up to, right? I mean, the majority of my viewers are around the same age as me, so you guys were either watching Minecraft Let's Plays on YouTube or telling anyone who asked you how old you were that you were 300. But aside from that, yeah, 2012 was definitely with its trends and whatnot, but if there was one thing that stood out the most was the sudden rise of the Chicago rap scene, aka drill music. Now, for all the kids who don't know what drill music is, it's basically a more violent and grittier version of gangster rap, being a sort of representation of one's way of life and getting more popular throughout the Midwest and northeastern parts of the US as well as overseas. And while the music did have its popularity back then, I think what made drill music stand out the most is what goes on behind the scenes with the murders, the gang culture, and the overall promotion of, well, not so good ideals, which is what made Chicago drill music gain such a large popularity back then, alongside outside voices such as the lamest nigga in music news, DJ Academics. And with all of this coming together, it kind of painted a good foreshadowing of what would happen in its future revival in other cities such as New York and London, because although the sound has definitely changed, the elements of drill music are still alive and well within artists such as Sha Ek, K-Flock, and many more. But if there's one person we all know who was the frontman for it, it had to be the 300-year-old teenager himself, Chief Keef. Now, I'm not just saying he's the only one, with Lil Durk, Lil Reese, La Capone, and many others running the game back then, but thanks to hits such as Love Sosa, I Don't Like, and Hate Being Sober, Chief Keef was practically miles ahead of the game. And then adding the fact that he sat on the Billboard for up to 14 weeks, and then got a Kanye cosign later on with the I Don't Like remix, plus an upcoming feature on the best Kanye album of all time, it's like his career was practically solidified, or at least you would have thought it was. Cause see, while Chief Keef was running off a $6 million contract from Interscope, he was also dealing with outside legal and personal issues that were heavily affecting his money and his relations with Interscope, and it eventually got him dropped and completely slowed down his work progress, with him going through rehab, declining sales numbers on Back from the Dead 2, and him mainly just taking a backseat from the rap scene, mainly just working on music production and just trying to stay as far away from the Chicago problems as he can. But just cause Sosa could try and do things differently doesn't mean that other Chicago rappers were dealt the same fate, with a slew of notable Chicago names being dealt the worst hand imaginable for a rapper in general. And this is what brings me into my first point in all of this, which is what goes on behind the scenes and its desensitization. Now, we all have a backstory to something, right? I mean, the reason why I started this channel was because the basketball team couldn't handle my hoop skills. But in terms of drill music, what goes on behind the scenes and the backstories on a lot of songs and bars is what also partially fuels its existence in general. I mean, as I said before, drill music is also a representation of one's life. And with the things that have circulated around the Chicago rap scene from then until now, I would say that it's all pretty dark. We're talking current beefs between fellow rappers and gangs, and the trend of smoking on someone who died being the main things that drill rappers like to throw into their songs. But now you're probably wondering, how does something that helped fuel the popularity of drill also help in its downfall? Which is a good question, but see, the answer is also pretty simple. It got mainstream. And it's not like I'm saying there's anything wrong with going mainstream, but at the same time it allowed the storytelling, drama, and overall energy that surrounds popular drill songs such as King Von's Wayne Story or Lil Herb and Lil Bibby's Kill Shit become these pieces of media that have lost all meaning and just become trends for little suburban white kids to jump on while going to soccer practice. It's kind of like how trap music has become this oversaturated and desensitized form of hip hop nowadays, with people rapping lyrics about sipping lean and popping perks and catching bodies, all while at the same time they'd be too scared to touch a blunt. But now as for my second point, we also got to talk about the oversaturation that has plagued modern day drill music. I mean, seriously, what sweatshop do these New York and UK drill rappers go to get the most repetitive and bland beats, just to spin around like a bunch of ballerinas, diss a couple dudes they never interacted with, and smoke on a nigga they never met? I mean, I get it, you gotta do what works, but at the same time, with how people, especially young people, consume media nowadays through TikTok and whatnot, at a certain point people are gonna get tired of hearing the same dude say the same thing over the same style of sample and hat beat. And I mean, sure, you have some outliers such as the late Pop Smoke, but at the same time, the reason why it worked out for him is because he had the ability to stand out, especially since he was one of the main driving forces behind why New York drill is the way it is now. And then you got guys like Fabio Foreign and now Ice Spice that basically took took the sound and turned it into this super mainstream TikTok-y trend that now kind of feels like a shell of its former self, at least on a surface level. With guys like P. Diddy criticizing modern New York hip-hop, it can make you question the direction the drill sound can even go at this point, other than downwards due to it being exploited, watered down, and overall just burnt out. I mean, just take modern day trap music as an example. I feel like the line between its foundations back in the early 2000s or whatever the hell it's turned into now is very visible. Just take a look at Lil Baby's latest album, It's Only Me. It's like the pure definition of uninspired, bland, basic, surface level trap music that's bloated with so much repetition you can obviously tell it was just made for streams and to uphold whatever relevancy he can. And then taking the fact that the trap sound today has lost most of its substance, making absolutely nothing within the past 2 years that I would actually call a 10 out of 10 due to the fact that it's revolved around the same 8 people, it seems as if it's becoming more visible that the trap sound is slowly making its way out of the music meta. I mean, seriously, I'll give you 30 seconds to name a mainstream trap album that didn't include one of these dudes in the past couple of years. See? Told you so. And it's funny because these record labels know this as well, especially with drill music, because they know the pace of today's trends, and with drill music being a new wave amongst all sorts of a young and profitable crowd, it's simpler to milk the cow until it just turns into a raisin. But now we gotta get into the final and I feel the most important point. It's not sustainable. Alright, so to try and help gain a better understanding of what I'm trying to say, let's take a walk all the way back to YouTube's edgy phase, aka 2016. And during this time there were a slew of YouTubers that perfectly fit the criteria I was looking for to base my weird personality on that I unfortunately have today, and some of those included iDubbbz, Leafy is Here, and TV Filthy Frank. Now back then they used to make some of the most nastiest, goofiest, and overall dumbest content I've seen on YouTube until they all eventually grew up and realized how stupid it all was. Now I bring them up because when watching a couple of interviews from iDubbbz and Joji, aka Filthy Frank, they both had pretty insightful and similar reasons for why they stopped making that kind of content. It just wouldn't work on today's YouTube. It wasn't funny and they simply got tired of doing that kind of stuff. In other words, it wasn't a sustainable form of content. Because let's be honest, how long could someone be able to do the same edgy and stupid humor over and over before people grow up and realize how dumb it all is? And the same thing applies towards drill music. Its themes and the personas that are involved in there are starting to make the whole thing seem kinda uninteresting to me. I mean, a lot of these dudes are like legit teenagers, younger than me, rapping about the same shit on the same flows and beats just for some of them to meet their untimely fate, whether it be in jail or dead. And at the end of the day, it's not like the labels will care because they're just gonna move on to the next talent that washes up on its shores. Overall, what I'm trying to say is that drill music is going to meet its course pretty soon due to the fact that a lot of the talent is either dead, locked up, doesn't really affiliate themselves with the sound anymore, or just uses it as a prop for clout. And while we'll just be here moving on to the next trend like a bunch of leeches, they'll be grasping at anything they can to keep their relevance. Because at the end of the day, this drill sound was simply never meant to get any further than what Pop Smoke or Chief Keef did for it. But that's just my 2 cents on the ups and downs of drill music. I don't even know if this video was necessary, but regardless, y'all just gotta bear with me because I'm just doing whatever I want right now. But if you like the video, feel free to subscribe as well, follow my IG and Twitter, and follow Chocolate on Instagram for more illustrations. And on that note, I'll see you on Friday when I tell record labels how easy it is to not exploit young black men for profit. Peace.
On the 10 pin, Chris Vi just feeding it out to that 4-5 board down lane, and look at this pin action. Oh.